Hello, my friends. I'm Rick, and this is hey, this is the channel. Little Missy right here, right here. Yeah, little Missy. So we're talking about the Anunnaki and their gold. The Anunnaki are these ancient. There's a number of stories, but it's mostly coming out of Sumeria, and there's Enoch. They're actually mentioned indirectly in the Bible. So this is a story that's been around a long time, right? And one of the things that I think was Zachary Stitchin, and if I'm butchering his name, I apologize. He wrote a slew of books, and I think I've read about 12 of them over the years. They were already kind of old. They were sitting on a back shelf. I was in high school. I want to say I was in high school when I first read the first Zachary Stitchin book. I could be wrong. Could have been a little later than that, but I found it was fascinating in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of connectivity to this story. You know, there's the supposed missing planet deep out in the outer rims of our solar system. There's now there's actual NASA and others actually have solid belief that there is another big ass thing out there at the edge of the belt. There's a lot of talk about a brown dwarf, possibly that our solar system is actually a binary system, that far out in the Keiper belt or the Oort cloud there is a brown dwarf that we can't see, which is generally a brown dwarf is an extremely ancient sun that's losing its energy. Although I've heard stories where you can actually they don't have to be ancient, they could just be a weak sun, a sun that didn't ever fully formed or burned through its stages much too quickly. There's also the possibility that it was something else. But the story goes that these aliens, and they're supposedly reptilian, they're definitely not human, they're different and much bigger, much faster. No, these are the Watchers, these are the entities from beyond, the fallen angels in the Bible. There's a whole slew of the connections to this story. Anyway, the Anunnaki live on this planet extremely way out. Now, and their atmosphere is failing. So they come to Earth because they need gold, because they need to seed their atmosphere with gold. Now, I don't know any reason for that to happen. None of that part makes sense to me. None of the physics that I understand. And I grant you, I'm not a scientist nor a physicist, though there's a lot I don't get. But no. First off, how did they survive? They would be such an alien. They would have to be so alien that they do not require sunlight, because they would not get enough sunlight out there. Even if I did a little research on it, it's quite possible for planets to be orbiting a brown dwarf, and for them to be a viable planet, they would be literally parked. But the habitable zone for a brown dwarf would be extremely close to the sun, and that would cause a lot of problems on the planet itself. But to me, it doesn't make sense that they actually had a viable world that far out that they could inhabit, unless it's an enclosed environment. I mean, we don't know that this is an ancient race, assuming, and I'm working on the assumption they exist, that this is an ancient race who once upon a time, their sun was much hotter and brighter than it is, and they managed to go inward in some ways. So they built the hollow earth. They do have their version of a hollow earth, because that was how they survived. But this idea that they need gold for their atmosphere. Well, gold is reflective. It could be utilized to help reflect heat. This is why they use gold, very thin layers of gold, on a lot of spacecraft that they intend to go through re-entry. I mean, look it up. It is what it is. The other possibility is gold is very electrical conductive, conducts electricity. So it's possible that if you needed to seed your atmosphere because you're going to charge it, you need to energize it in some way, that's a possibility too. So the story is that the Anunnaki came to Earth to get gold to save their planet. And in the process, they decided they needed labor to do all the grunt work, because obviously that they either couldn't bring enough of their own people, which is plausible. We're talking spacecraft. We're on the assumption the Anunnaki were so advanced, but we don't know if they exist. We don't know exactly how far in advancement they are. I mean, if they were so advanced, why were they on a planet that's dying? Why not just vacate the planet? Why not invade Earth and take it over? They could have easily accomplished it then. Or maybe they attempted it, and then for some reason they got wiped out, or they're still hiding somewhere. See, the conspiracies and connections never end with this stuff. So with the Anunnaki, here's my problems. So, a couple. If you have the technology to travel from the Oort crowd on the extreme edges of the solar system to Earth in a timely manner, I mean, we could travel there, but how many years would it take and would we die? Because we would have to build such a huge ship for supplies to stay alive long enough to get there, because it would literally take decades to get there. How long did it take Voyager to get out there? 30 years? And it's tiny, right? And it didn't have to pack it didn't have to pack a lunch either, or bring a box. It depends. I'm just pointing out the obvious logic here. So if the Anunnaki had the ability to travel to Earth and back in a time, let's say in weeks instead of years, or months instead of years. If we took sea voyages that took months. So a space voyage of months would not be a total hardship. I mean, it would be uncomfortable possibly and a hardship, but not impossible. They can come here to Earth to dig dirt, to get gold, to take it back home. Why? Why? We now know for a fact that the asteroid belt includes asteroids that made up a significant portion of which is made up of gold. This is what is this one? It's 16 Psyche. Yeah, the 173 mile across asteroid called 16 Psyche, believed to be made up of gold, nickel, and iron. So back in the mid 2000s, they discovered this asteroid, and they sent a probe. I believe they sent a probe to it. But the indications are the analysis they did was it was a significant portion of its gold. So if you can just pull up to an asteroid and tow it back to your planet, or pull up to an asteroid and use technology to extract that material, why would you bother going to a planet with an atmosphere and a bunch of monkeys running around that you're going to have to alter? See that part in my brain is, why the hell would they come all the way to Earth just to get gold? That doesn't make sense to me. Now, are they getting gold while they're here? Sure. But for the purpose that Stitchian and other the implication, because we don't know. This is all hypothetical stuff. And I've read the Book of Enoch. It's a Lulu. It's a Lulu, and there's a reason why it's not part of the canon for the Bible. But yet I find it really interesting that the story gets mentioned several places in the Bible, which at the time when I read was Charity of the Gods, I think was the first book I read. So when I read Stitchin's book, and I grew up in a Christian family with Christian ministers, so I've got the Bible thrown at me literally many times, and so I thought, Jesus, some of this stuff he's talking about reeks of the Bible. I mean, this is it's all here. So why would they come here to do that, and then come here and muck with our DNA? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, if perhaps, just perhaps, go off on a conspiracy tangent, right? I'm going to get these other images up because there's that fancy big old asteroid right there, right? 16 Psyche. Okay, so if your planet's dying, let's just hypothetically say that the Anunnaki's planet literally is dying, and they've managed to do everything they could to stave off the inevitable, and now the inevitable's they're not going to be able to do it any longer. So they realize it's not practical to relocate their entire population, because ideally, if they're like Earth, they got millions or tens of millions or billions of freaking Anunnaki, and how do you transport them all in a timely manner? Not going to do it. So you send out your colonial effort. You come to Earth with that intention to transplant your species to another planet for survival. And for one reason or another, Terra is not really good for them. Somehow, it's just not their best interest to try to survive there. So what they do is they embed their DNA into human DNA, or the Neanderthal DNA, and create the modern human as their story. As the Anunnaki story suggests, they create the human race. They created a servitor race. So they took our ancestors, or the predecessors of our ancestors, and mucked with them, medically speaking, to create the modern human beings that we've all evolved out of. If they did that by transferring part of themselves to the human genome with the intentions of them, through that act, extending their existence into that's a possibility. It's just like the hidden world and the hidden cities and the hidden, the hollow earth and a whole lot of other stuff. There's quite possibles that these Anunnaki their descendants could very well still be here in the shadows. And it would be an awesome explanation for a whole lot of different things that go on. I mean, it's all hypothetical and stuff. But the fact that they would come all the way to Earth because they wanted gold is absurd. They could have got gold out in the asteroid belt. We know for a fact that gold's out there. And it's just given that meant that if the gold's present in the asteroid belt, don't you think the gold's present in the Oort crowd and in the outer limits? Because that's what that is. It's just a very diverse, dispersed asteroid belt out there. The Keiper belt is called a belt for a reason. So the odds are really good if we ever get ability to go into the Keiper belt and explore, we'll find gold in those asteroids out there too. So why the hell come here for that? That makes no sense whatsoever. None whatsoever. And gold is freaking heavy. It's heavy. So transporting it off the planet and across the solar system and beyond, it just doesn't jive to me. It don't work in my brain. It don't work. Now, them coming here for conquest doesn't really work either. Now, there's a possibility that this was an exploration effort by them, and it's just that our ancestors decided they were here for gold. Because maybe they were obsessed with gold while they were here. Why not? Gold, once again, has a lot of properties that we use in modern technology today. So why wouldn't they need that in their technology back then, too? It's just like the predecessors. I mean, we talk about Atlantis and stories, but there's very few people that sit there and go, well, what if? And no, there are some that suggest, what if the descendants of the Anunnaki are the Atlanteans? But there's also the story of the continent of Lemur and me. Is it Mu or me? There's another. I think it's Mu. That there's yet another race, and supposedly it was Lemur and Atlantis went to war with each other because the Atlanteans wanted to do even more and become more involved, and the Lemurs didn't want to. So it implies that they're not all human beings, or they're descended from something not human. That we had a different race of people running around and doing stuff, which once again answers a lot of questions and brings up 100 more questions. I mean, that's the nature of the beast. So I don't think the Anunnakis come here for gold. That's just absurd. It doesn't make absolutely no sense from a science fiction perspective, from a science fiction guy, from a science guy a little bit. I mean, it's just absolutely absurd. The fact is that gold is not that rare. That's the other problem, because when they first discovered 16 Psyche, there was a big hoopla. Like, well, what if they could bring that direct it to Earth so they can mine it in Earth, or bring it to one of the Lagrange points so we can mine it? And there's some, as they said, it was what does it say? It was 10 quadrillion. They estimate that the gold value in 16 Psyche is $10 quadrillion. That would totally wreck the world economy. You could not introduce that much gold into a gold economy and have it worth anything. It would so diminish the value of gold, it would be retarded, because it would just be so plentiful. It'd be as plentiful as copper, or damn close to it. And that's so if they bring it here, it's for commercial purpose, industrial use. And at that point, we've transitioned beyond this horrific concept of economies that we have today. Because the world economy in general and every country's systems are all pretty damn bad. At the end of the day, they're horrible. I mean, capitalism is this and capitalism is that. No, it ain't. No, it's not. If you're on the lower end of the spectrum, it's horrible. And all the bullshit and crap that the corporate yahoos want to throw out there about what's good for the working stiffs, it just frustrates me to no end, because you know what? I earn these goddamn calluses, but they're worth a hell of a lot more than what I get paid to put them on my hand. My self-worth is worth more than what these fuck-asses can afford to pay me. I get that. Doesn't change the fact it's bullshit. You know, it's just like universal health care and this, that, and the other thing. We can all do this because it's better for everybody. Everybody. It's not socialism. It's not communism. It's not capitalism. It's just the right thing to look after each other and everybody. And if everybody's on equal par, it's like free energy. The thing with Tesla was working on, and I suspect the implications that the Templars talk about and stuff. Jesus, yeah, it would. The problem is introducing these things really disrupts the economy, really disrupts the capitalist mindset. And I don't give a damn what country you're in, you still have a bit of capitalism in you. Even communism didn't work the way they said it did. It took a level of interaction that rivals capitalism. But capitalism, A, is not a religion, B, is not a government society. We are a democracy and a republic, not a bunch of and not a capitalist society. The problem is too many. The handful of people who think that way is because they have the lion's share of the cash. And you think what they would love to have us is somebody to tow this big thing in and devalue their cash? Not going to happen. So the Anunnaki would have absolutely no problems getting plenty of gold much closer to their world if than coming all the way here for that. No, if they came here, it was for other purposes. And I would more likely buy them coming here to get oxygen and things like that, because water, and I'm not so sure oxygen, I mean, you get the right elements together, you can produce oxygen as a byproduct. So we know that asteroids are full of ice, so there's ice asteroids out there, so water's out there, which means if you got water and you got heat, you can produce oxygen. So I mean, that's you get a water vapor, turns into oxygen, etc. I don't know exact how that metamorphosis works, but I remember reading and studying it a little bit back in school a long damn time ago. So yeah, okay, the gold really wasn't the point. Care what the story says, that's bullshit. What was the real reason that they came and did the stuff that they did? That's the question I want to know. What about you? Just saying.